Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am PANCZASU and welcome to Endless Legend Shadows expansion. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my tutorial slash playthrough series for the Forgotten faction, newly added in this particular piece of DLC. If you are a new visitor to my channel, then well, first things first, welcome. Secondly, I should probably explain to you what this video series is going to be all about, and it's very simple. The videos I do are tutorials and playthroughs mixed together. I'll play a single game through its completion, explaining what I do and why I do the things that I do in detail, giving you some tips as to how to play this particular game. Obviously, I will be playing on the highest difficulty with some pretty harsh world settings. That is how I roll, that is what you can expect. Now, with that out of the way, let's focus on this in more detail. First things first, I know some of you guys were hoping that I would show you some beta footage of this game about, what, 2 weeks ago I believe? My apologies, in the end things did not work out quite as I had planned, so I couldn't do it at the time when it was appropriate, and then I've decided to not do it at all because, as I expected, the balance of this game, or expansion rather, has changed quite drastically, and I want my tutorials slash playthroughs to be as accurate as possible. So now that we know the official release patch notes and things of the sort, I can safely tell you how to play as the Forgotten, which is rather important. So, before I move on, let's give you a very brief introduction to this expansion itself. It is obviously focused around two things in particular: the Forgotten faction, which I'll play as, and the background you can see right now is also of the Forgotten faction, and there are some structures in the background. And we also saw very briefly a Forgotten lurking around this pool in the past. If you go back a few seconds, maybe like 30 seconds back this video, you'll probably see the guy over there pretending not to be seen. Anyway, so this is the first big addition in this expansion. The second one is espionage, and surprise surprise, the Forgotten are even more powerful at espionage than other factions, so we'll be mostly covering that. Obviously other changes, such as for example pillaging or stealth mechanics and even more things, I'll discuss as well in an appropriate time. For now though, let's go ahead and prepare a game. First of all, I'll be playing on a map that is a normal sized map with 6 players in total, that meaning me and 5 AI opponents. The reason for that is very simple. More than that and the playthrough just takes too long to completion. Usually, no matter if I go for 6, 7 or 8 players, my tutorials always end around the same time period. However, the 10s take a little bit less time with less AI, so that's why I go for 6. Either way, the sample size is good enough, and I should be able to teach you anything I want to do. As for the settings, in the advanced game settings, nothing out of the ordinary here. Obviously score victory is off. And as for the advanced settings, oh, they reset again, didn't they? That's really easy to fix though. Obviously manufacturing difficulty is going to be hard, while resources will be as sparse as possible. I'm gonna go for 70% land percentage with some islands and only one continent this time around. I could go for more. In fact, yeah, the reason why I'm not really that tempted to go for more is actually very simple. It's because last few times I recorded games with multiple continents, it seemed like it was a little bit too easy, to be frankly honest. For example, in my other Majors playthrough, my continent, it was just for me, the cultists and the roving clans, if you have seen that playthrough. And this makes things extremely easy for a human player. You just have to dominate a few of the AIs to reach a victory condition one way or another. When you're playing against AI, I do sincerely believe... oh, there he is. I do sincerely believe it makes things harder to play on a single continent. So that's why I went for that. Now, as for the Forgotten, I will obviously explain how to play as them in detail in the series, over the course of the entire series I meant, but let's briefly talk about who they are. Victory type supremacy. This is likely the first time I personally agree with the developers as to the main victory type of a faction. Forgotten are indeed quite good at supremacy. That's not to say they cannot go for other things as well, but supremacy is clearly best suited for them. Now, as for the other traits, first of all, the iconic affinity trait, science-phobic. Those guys do not understand science, they do not use science. They conduct research with dust, meaning that dust for them is extraordinarily powerful, more or less as, I'm not powerful, but important, more or less as important as it is for the Broken Lords. Just, not quite to this extent. Broken Lords are extremely dependent on dust after all, but Forgotten are not far behind at all. Dust is essential for you, and I'll explain why in detail later. They also have Knowledge Seekers, which allows their infiltration actions, again something I'll discuss a little bit more detail later, to steal technology instead of decreasing the enemy's science production. This is, as you may expect, one of the espionage actions you can perform if you are playing in this particular expansion. And while every empire can lower the enemy's empire science output, Forgotten alone, or other factions with this particular trait, can steal tech instead of just lower the enemy's tech output, which is rather magnificent, and this is in fact how the Forgotten go around the game. That said, there's some fun fact I want to share with you guys about Science-Phobic, about what it does to the rate at which I discover research when playing as the Forgotten. I noticed that in early game, super early game, I'm always #1 in research. I just discover I'm the first player to get to Era 2 most of the time, even against Endless AI in multiplayer, no matter what. If I'm Forgotten and other players are not, I'm probably gonna be the first one in Era 2. There are exceptions to that, but still, that's just me saying that this is how it goes. Then, after reaching Era 2, usually I enter a long stage of stagnation where I barely get any techs at all. During that time, almost all of the techs I get come from the Knowledge Seekers, me stealing technologies of other empires, and I myself usually don't have the dust to spend on tech during this state of the game. And then as we near the end of the game, the late game, suddenly I again start discovering techs like crazy, matching even some of the more science-focused empires such as Mizari or Volters and other mages. It's quite an interesting curve, and I like it because it's unlike anything we've seen with the other factions, and the more variety the better in my opinion. Anyway, let's not make this too long. Next up we've got Dust Sense, that's a technology, and what's mine is mine. Fun fact, what's mine is the best technology to counter the Forgotten. If you want to fight the Forgotten, you have to have the Forgotten. Or a custom faction that has the what's mine is mine trait. It's extremely useful. As to why that is and what security is, wait until a little bit further into this video. Next up we've got the Forgotten main quest. Now about this main quest, it's one of the easiest and most powerful, most benefiting quests in the entire game. I know it by heart. Also reminded me to post the details and spoilers for this quest on the forum somewhere, because I already posted them during the beta for the beta players. Might as well repost it. Anyway, this quest, let me just put this into perspective. Usually when I want to complete a quest for any other faction, I have to go out of my way to do it. Sometimes the benefits are worth it, sometimes they're not. In the case of Forgotten, there's only one stage of this quest that is a little bit tricky. Everything else pretty much almost happens by itself. It's extremely easy to finish this quest without barely focusing on it at all. And to make it even more incredible, this quest also gives you some insane benefits. Trust me, the hero that you gain, the technologies you gain, especially the last one, boy, that's amazing. And yeah, just trust me, there are things to look forward to in this main quest. You also start with the search party ability technology. A lot of people are not fans of search party, but for the Forgotten it's absolutely essential because it allows them to get more dust from ruins more reliably. Very important, trust me. Next we've got Expert Forager. That allows you to, well, you can read it for yourself, I don't think I need to explain that. And practice pillage, making those people better at pillaging. Again, things like pillaging I'll explain later. Right now there is little point in me doing so. Another technology they gain, and also they start with the ability to pillage. Other empires have to research that particular thing. Now, before we move on, let's also discuss the units very briefly. First we have the Settler, which is by far the most powerful settler in the game. previously that title was held by the Roving class settler because it was the fastest settler in the game, allowing them to colonize faraway lands with minimal efforts. Very useful, very powerful, especially when running away, and that's what settlers usually do. However, Forgotten can one-up that very easily. Their settlers are stealthed. Stealth is a mechanic I'll explain later, but as you might expect, stealth units cannot be seen by enemies or even allies. They can only be seen by you or by units with detection, or if they literally just bump into another unit. When a stealth unit is adjacent to any other unit, then it will be discovered. Otherwise, it will not. Which means that those settlers are almost impossible to catch and can colonize almost any region freely. Incredibly powerful benefit for the Forgotten. Now, next up we've got the Assassins. Assassins are an interesting infantry faction. When you look at the stats, they're kind of ish similar in the design to the Teslam Warlock, as you can see. Teslam Warlocks, theoretically an infantry unit, practically a glass cannon, which is unusual for an infantry unit. However, if you look at the stats closer, you can see that, oh, Assassin isn't actually as much of a glass cannon, he's just a little bit of a weirdo. That said, he, just like every other Forgotten unit, has the ability to duel with weapons. That's right, he cannot have any shields, but he can have dual-wielding weapons, which means that he can even mix up the benefits that he gains from his weapon. He can have Infantry Slayer, and let's say, I don't remember right now, Flying Slayer, for example. He cannot gain Flying Slayer, by the way, that's just a random example. So yeah, that makes him a very versatile unit, and to make it even better, yes, he, like every other unit, also calls Stealth, which is incredible, but he also has the Acrobat ability, which allows him to jump over other units. Just like every other unit I'll talk about in a second, Assassin is an example of the Forgotten's army ability to be extremely versatile on the battlefield. They can adjust and adapt on pretty much on the go against any opponent, and they're extremely good at that. The units stat-wise and ability-wise maybe are not as incredible as some other units, but their versatility is their biggest strength by far, allowing them to match any enemy. Next up we've got Predator, and this guy is terrifying. You have to research his technology to get him, but he's got dual wield, and he is a ranger. Now in theory, despite the fact that he can have two crossbows at once, you could make an argument that things like the Kyle Rangers are better. Because, yeah, I mean, stat-wise it's not that amazing, but the Kyle Rangers have the full range, and they have the Forest Rage as well, making them extremely devastating, and also they are the basic unit you can easily unlock. But the Predator have the ability of Predator's Mark, which is what makes them so terrifying. Predator's Mark creates a debuff on enemy unit that takes damage from a Predator. This debuff can be stacked up to 3 times, and for each time the targeted unit takes extra damage from any source. And here's the kicker, it even works on Guardians. When I first saw this before the beta was out in the internal builds, I immediately went out to the devs and I was like, guys, this unit is bugged, it works on Guardians, and they were just like, yeah, it's supposed to, with an evil grin on their face. And yeah, Predators are extremely good at killing Guardians, or at least allowing your army to kill Guardians effectively. You want to kill a Guardian? Get a Predator, stack a Predator's Mark, and trust me, those guys will go down real quick. And finally, last but by no means least, the legendary Mist. For you it may not be legendary, for me it is, because I remember the times when he was the most overpowered unit in the history of Endless Legend. Previously, just random lore for you guys, previously that title went to the Antashi Zealot. You've never seen the Zealots like this, but they used to be so incredibly overpowered it was hilarious. That, however, was nothing compared to how overpowered Mists were. Man, those were fun to use. 3 of them and no army can match, literally no army. But now those are old tales. Now they're balanced, sadly. I'm just kidding, by the way. Now they're thankfully balanced, and they're still very useful and very powerful, very cost efficient. They die like flies, don't get me wrong. They are a little bit similar in their faction to the Anchor-Wing for the other mages, but Anchor-Wings are amazing, they deal a ton of damage and they never die. Mist do die a lot, but they're meant to, because they can also devastate enemy armies like there's no tomorrow, with their Faster Than Shadows ability. As to what Faster Than Shadow is, imagine a chain lightning ability of the Undead or the Kazanji demons. The ability that allows you to strike multiple foes at once, right? Mist can do the same thing, but with two differences. Difference number one, their Faster Than Shadows ability only works on up to 2 additional targets, meaning they can with one action strike 3 foes at maximum, assuming they are adjacent to one another, of course. But the damage! Ho ho! Chain Lightning ain't got nothing on the Faster Than Shadows damage. Just wait and see until I use it. Anyway, that being said, I'm going to set up the AIs, load or rather generate the world, and I'll resume the recording then, so stay tuned for that. Alright, the world has just been generated and you can hear in the background, though probably very faintly, the amazing Forgotten theme music. Listen to it, wow. I love it so much, it fits them so well. Unfortunately, what doesn't fit as well is the region we start in. So, as I do at the beginning of every tutorial slash playthrough I do, let's talk about the most important thing, settling your first city and deciding which FTSE to take into consideration first. And what kind of regions do I like? Well, let's start with the FTSE, shall we? So, obviously, we don't care about science, we don't like science. Why don't we like science? Because we cannot use it, obviously. In fact, we don't even gain anything in return for regions that have science, so things like that snowy field, that's pretty bad, cause that ain't gonna give us any science whatsoever. Same goes to anomalies. Snowy field with crystal flowers, usually amazing, in this case pretty pathetic. So I think you can see what kind of regions we don't like. We don't like cold regions, and we don't like red regions. No, I'm not being coloristic, I literally do mean red regions. Red regions as in regions with red rock or red, was it called red sand? I don't remember. These kind of regions have a lot of science in it and not that much of anything else usually. Okay, a little bit of things, some things, but not that many. They are mostly focused on science. What we like are hot regions, preferably hot regions with a lot of forest as well. Why? Because the FTSE we care about the most are dust, industry, and food, in that particular order. Dust is the most important FTSE type out of all the FTSE types we can gather from regular tiles. Industry is just slightly less important, they are more or less equal, but I would value dust slightly more when settling, especially when it comes to my first city. And then food, obviously important, but not as important as dust and industry. So, as you can probably guess, we care about tropical regions. All the tropical regions usually have either food and industry or food and dust. But things like deserts, they can have industry and dust and a little bit of food and almost no science. That's what we like, but that's not what I got. Either way, that's good, since tutorials showing worst case scenarios are usually the best types of tutorials, so I'm actually rather happy that I have no reasons to be happy, if you know what I mean. Alrighty then, so let's have a quick look at this region in particular. We have this dead field right here with exotics. Again, another anomaly that is usually much better than it is. But what is most important, again, is for me to get a decent amount of dust and a decent amount of industry. This is not a bad area right here, because we have a river. River is a good source of dust, mind you, even in Era 1, so that's very valuable, especially this area right here. I mean, look at how the river circulates. It's actually kind of amazing how much dust it's gonna give me. Additionally, this area has a decent amount of industry. Not amazing, mind you, but still, we have 5 tiles that give me industry. That's pretty good. 10 industry at start is nothing to complain about, to be frankly honest. And every tile gives me food around here. Unfortunately, it means that at the start, if I were to settle on this tile, which I think I might do, it means that at the start I would have a very pathetic amount of dust income. And that's what worries me, because you need to have a lot of it at the start. So I might reconsider. Normally, as any other faction, I would be like, oh yeah, let's settle here. As the Forgotten, that may not be the case. So let's select our army and set out the scouts. Now, think about the scouts and the Forgotten. You don't want to have many scouts. 1 is the maximum for you. when settling your first city, it is okay to send out multiple scouts to see which area is best for settling, but that is the only exception. So let's move out the scout a little bit and see what we can see once I move him to over here. Alright, so I don't see any new anomalies around here. Of course, there's this Galadriel's village. Galadriel's, by the way, are very good to, you know, assimilate because their benefit is rather amazing. We also don't have a cavalry unit, but to be frankly honest, you don't need any extra neutral units to be added to your army as the Forgotten. What you have is enough. You care about the assimilation effect, not the units. So, over here I haven't discovered anything in particular, so let's split up this assassin and see what else I can find. Let's move a little bit further and see a big bulk of nothing with a bit more science and dust, but yeah, nothing in particular. Now, let's talk about one last thing which is rather important. If you start in a really horrible region, what do? As any other faction, the sensible thing to do would be to not settle and move into another region in the hopes of finding a better place to settle. You cannot do that as the Forgotten though. Why? It's actually very simple. It's because you need your dust. As you can see, every turn you do not settle costs you dust. Not as much as it costs me right now, because I split my army into 3 armies, which increases my dust expenditure considerably. Nonetheless, you can't afford to lose dust, because you need to spend this dust on your early game tech, and well, if you don't have the dust to do that, you'll fall behind very quickly and you'll lose. No, you will lose, trust me. I tried not selling on the first turn. It's nigh on impossible. If you find a lot of dust in nearby ruins, you can delay that for 1 turn, maybe, and that's a big maybe, even for 2 turns. But don't delay your expansion for any more than that, otherwise you will lose. The reason why I forgot to have so many good things about them, like stealth, versatile armies, amazing faction quests and whatnot, is because they are actually not that easy to play. They're quite tricky. If you make one mistake, one seemingly minor mistake, you will lose the game. So you need to watch out for that. Now, if you excuse me, I desperately need to drink something, so 1 second. That's better. I'm sorry, my throat was getting a little bit dry. So, I see no promising lands in the background. Also, the music you hear in the background is again the Forgotten theme music, which is amazing. So let's move my seller and let's sell him right over here. I do believe that, hey, give me the Fitzy output. As you can see, I mean, normally I will be very happy about it. 14 food, 10 industry. That's amazing for almost any other faction, except for Brockolots, obviously. But for me, it's not ideal. Food is what I care about the least, remember? And dust is what I need. I would love to settle in an area like, let's say, for example, what do I have to get around here? 11 dust. That's what I want. I would say when you're forgotten and you're selling your first city, you want to have at least 8 dust, and 12 and above is preferable. If you can find an area where you can settle with 12 dust, go for it, because it will pay off tremendously. You want that dust, you really do. I'm sorry, my throat, it's a little bit annoying today for some reason. Anyway, I also need industry, so obviously I cannot settle here, but otherwise I probably would. So let's go ahead and make the risky decision. Usually, again, you want that dust, but because of the river here, I will make the risky decision and settle here. First few turns will be a nightmare. This time, I can make it work. So let's make it work. Move it nice and easy and settle my first city. Now, normally what I like to do is to use my hero to both search for the ruins and also assign my hero to a city. Why? Because look at the hero we start with. This hero is obviously a forgotten hero. What does the forgotten hero has? Well, this particular hero that you will start with will have dust boost too. Extra 4 dust on the hero's level, per hero's levels in the city, and plus 1% dust as well. That's actually very major for the Forgotten, especially in the early game. What I usually tend to do most of the times, and what I'll do in here as well, is assign him to the scouting army for as long as it takes for the hero to reach at least level 2, then reassign that hero to a city to give me a little bit of a dust boost, since I'll usually really need it. So, in fact, before I move on, let's talk about some of the abilities of a Forgotten Hero, because they're actually quite important. So, the Forgotten Hero, the faction abilities that he has, or she, because most of them are girls. In fact, are all of the Forgotten Hero girls? I think they are, but don't quote me on that. Either way, this girl is a girl at the very least. So, you start with Mage Torpor, which is basically the same ability that the Wild Walkers hero have. Very useful, universally good. It allows you to assign your heroes to different tasks faster. For Forgotten Heroes, it's extremely important because most of the time you use Forgotten Heroes as spies, and you want to be able to switch the cities they reside in, hopefully at a moment's notice. Now, there are benefits to staying in a single city for long, benefits that I'll explain, but you want to be able to reassign your hero if necessary. Next up, we've got ability that normally would be good. In practice, it's pathetic. Extra dust from terrain of forest, very useful for the Forgotten Fury, but going for that is pointless. You will not use your Forgotten Heroes as governors. That's what they're worst at. Obviously this ability is good, but the Forgotten Heroes are best at A, spying, obviously, B, being generals. They're actually really solid generals, and they should not be underestimated. Now then, next up we've got Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing, as you can see, provides you with seniority bonus. What is seniority bonus, you might ask? The answer is very simple. When you perform a spy action on the enemy city, and succeed obviously, then you gain so-called seniority. Seniority allows you to perform your next action quicker, and after that action you'll gain more seniority, which will allow you to perform your next action even quicker than that. And as you can imagine, this thing can spiral out almost out of control really quickly, with you being able to perform devastating actions almost every turn. So, as such, you want to increase your seniority bonus even further so that you really can perform those actions extremely quickly. Seniority is a tool which, as you may imagine, encourages you to keep your spy in a single city. Now, that also is quite risky because it's more likely that the enemy empire will realize that there is something fishy going on in one of their city, and they'll look for your spy and possibly kill your spy, because that can happen, mind you. But Double or Nothing makes staying in a single city for longer periods of time not only worthwhile, but highly recommended, if not to say that is exactly what you need to do. Next up, we've got amazing one step ahead ability. This I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. However, as you can imagine, allowing your hero to not be captured by the enemy is very good. As to what capturing is, give me a few minutes, I'll talk about it, don't you worry. Next up, we've got Camouflage. Now, it doesn't quite fit with the other things that this faction has in its tree, but Camouflage is actually really good, because 10% attack on every level, nobody else has this. Usually people either have a flat bonus, or with a little bit of percentage bonus at the end, or things like that. Plus 10% on each level, up to a plus 30%. Actually really good if you're not leading a Forgotten army. This is good if you have a Forgotten hero leading army of another empire, preferably an army of an empire that has a lot of attack. Say, other mages. Other mages love Forgotten heroes because of that particular thing. Boosting your attack to near infinity with Camouflage. It's actually quite effective. And finally, another reason why any other empire would absolutely love to have Forgotten hero. It gives you the stealth ability. Now stealth is, as you can read right here, it obviously allows your units to be invisible. Now, in order for units to truly be invisible, the entire army has to have stealth. It is just one unit in your army that does not have stealth, then your entire army is visible, so there's no point in you having stealth. But this ability allows your entire army, even if it's not a Forgotten army, to be completely invisible. Extremely useful. I love it, especially if I'm out of mages and I have it. It's just so... it's so cool! You can just devastate the enemy, suddenly appearing right at the doorstep of the most powerful city with an army of like 12 anchor wings and be like, stop! Deal with it! You're dead! Oh, it's amazing. Obviously it's not overpowered, there are plenty of ways to defend against that, but I did that once, it felt good. Oh boy. I'm sorry, I got too ahead of, a little bit too far ahead. Next up, let's talk about two abilities that have been added in this patch to every hero. First is an ability Lord of the Trance, which gives you extra spying power on infiltrated hero. This basically makes your hero better at spying, nothing more to that. It just makes you better at spying, nothing else I need to explain. And then we've got Face Reader. Now Face Reader is a tricky ability because it's extremely useful. Security, I'll explain in a second. Problem is, it's for governors only, because they're the only people that can boost a city's security, because security is a city thing. But what governor in the right mind would go for this? As you can see, this thing is in the common tree, and to get it, you have to get at the very least a fast healer or not either hand. If you're a governor hero, then this will most likely have to be a fast healer, kinda pointless. Unless, it's now less pointless than it used to be, because you can murder or try to murder enemy governors through espionage. So in this case, fast healer is useful, but it's still not very useful. And then you have to get Lord of the Trance, which again for governors, pointless. But even then, I would argue that there are situations when you want to get a Face Reader. Especially if you are playing as the cultists, Face Reader is a must. You have to get it. Trust me, get it. Because you will need it. Otherwise you'll be murdered so bad. Okay, and last but by no means least, let's talk about this. Insignia of the Hunter. This is what gives your units detection. It allows your units to see the enemy stealth units within radius. Obviously, this is how other factions, or the Forgotten themselves, can deal with the Forgotten. Not only the Forgotten though. I do not have access to this thing, but there is also another accessory available for other factions that allows you to have Camouflage. Camouflage is like a weaker version of stealth, which has the same effect, but works only inside forests. Now, I need to take a minute of a break because I need to rest. My throat is... I have no idea what's wrong with it, so just give me a moment. Alright, I let my my throat rest for a little, so now I feel a lot better and I can continue. Apologies for that. Now, let's go into You Think. So, as you can see, the city's UI has also changed as a result of this expansion. We have a new tab called Security, and security is what I want to talk about. As you can see right now, security is in fact directly related to the espionage system. When you have an enemy hero, an enemy spy, perform an action inside your city, he has to pass a security check. And based on that security check, either nothing may happen, he may be wounded, but mind you, being wounded doesn't mean that his action will fail. His action will still succeed despite being wounded, so that's something to keep in mind. The enemy hero may be easily disabled, which is obviously preferable, or he may be even captured, which is absolutely amazing, glory to the Empire! But it's kinda hard to achieve, because... Now, this may be outdated values, but I know that that's how they used to be before the beta. And I believe during the beta they were the same. Maybe they got changed now in the release version, but I don't think they were. So, here are the security values you need to have in your city to first disable a hero instantly. That's 25 security minimal. And that gives you only a very small percentage chance to disable the enemy hero. I believe it gives you 6%, but don't quote me on that. Either way, 25 security is minimal amount of security necessary to actually capture a hero. Next up, in order to, not capture but disable, I'm sorry, slip of the tongue. Now next, in order to capture a hero, you need to have at least 60 security in your city. Now that is hard to accomplish, mind you. Not impossible of course, but that's just right, because capturing the enemy hero, again, an enemy spy while he's trying to perform an espionage action in your city is extremely good. Mind you though, enemy heroes will, still wreak havoc in your city, so you do need to keep your security at as high as possible. If you cannot do that, but you know or find it very lucky that there is a spy in your city, then you have a secondary way to try and deal with that spy, and that is to perform a roundup. Roundup is temporarily giving you large boost of security and instantly performing that using that to perform a security check against enemy spies, allowing you to possibly find them, hit them, hurt them, kill them, capture them, whatever. Now, this is very costly. As you can read, it takes 50% of your city's production that is generated by population. For some cities, especially the coldest city, that is extremely damaging to the overall economy, but sometimes it's unavoidable. Mind you though, that you have to be quick about it as well, because if you have a really good, really experienced hero in your city who has seniority, you are not gonna be saved by roundup, I'm afraid, because I remember a situation when I had an amazing, almost godlike hero in the enemy city, and I had him there for almost the entire game. I just never moved there. And the enemy, at some point, the enemy realized that okay, my city, somebody is constantly stealing technology from me, which by then it was possible to know about. Now it's not possible to know about it. And people are constantly being poisoned from the poison water in my wells. Everybody is dying. It's horrible. There is a spy in my city. So the guy performed roundups to try and find my hero. But but despite that, my hero was never found. Once she was damaged, and that's it. So don't treat this as an instant win battle against spies. Do use that if you believe that there is a spy in your city, but don't think that this will instantly kill that hero. After all, there is a bit of randomness to it, but also you need to evaluate how likely you are to succeed. You need to take your basic security into account. If your basic security is as low as 20, yeah, you're not very likely to find the enemy hero even with roundup, although that is still much better than just relying on luck from 20% alone. So there is that. Okay, one extra thing, you may have noticed that I have titled my city You Think. That's completely unrelated to this playthrough. It's because, as my oldest viewers are probably aware, I'm a crazy huge fan of a band called Sonia Shide, that's Korean for the girls' generation, and some time ago they made a comeback with an amazing song called You Think. I absolutely adore it. It hurts me that it's, only 8 of those girls rather than 9 as they used to be. But either way, I'll support them with my own very heart as much as possible. So this is why I decided it's just fitting I put the title of the song as my capital, because man, I love it so much. It's a great song. Anyway, back to Endless Legend. Now, what I should do next is explain what kind of text I'm gonna go for. That's actually very simple. Let's go into the technology tree. Now, if you have been following my Endless Legend playthrough, you know about the Holy Trinity, right? You start off with Mill Foundry, then go to Cultivation, and then go to... Wait a second, there's nothing here. Of course there's not, we don't use science. We cannot have any libraries or anything of the sort, no geomegraphs for us either. We only care about dust. Alrighty then. So, does it mean that the Holy Trinity for the Forgotten is like Mill Foundry, Cultivation into maybe Empowerment? No. In fact, I would say for the Forgotten there is no Holy Trinity at all. There is one undeniable truth. To start with Mill Foundry, but other than that, it's a roulette. You don't know what you're gonna go for. It's just, you have to see for yourself, pretty much. Why? It's actually pretty simple. Mill Foundry is universally the thing you should get on turn 1, but then you're not limited by timers. Like, I want Mill Foundry. Hey, I have Mill Foundry. It's that simple. It's absolutely amazing. I didn't even need a city to do that, actually, which is why it's so cool. Now, but what do I need next is entirely up to me. For example, I may decide, and in fact this will probably be the case, to grab Language Square next, right? Because I have a village right next to me, so I want to see what it has to offer as quickly as possible, because I want to be able to fulfill this quest as quickly as possible again. So that nothing but spawns here, and I can rest easy a little bit. So this is what I'll probably grab next. But if not for that, the other technology you should grab next, I would say in almost every situation, would be Empowerment instead of Cultivation. You desperately need this dust, and this makes your life a lot easier. I have practiced this build order many times in the past. Empowerment seems to be by far the best idea, much better than going for early food. You need this dust, you need it for technologies, it's that simple. This time, however, amusingly enough, it will be one of the very few exceptions. I'm gonna go for Aquapovistics first. Why? Because it's gonna give me extra 5 dust from the river tiles, which is better, not 5, but 5 times 2 if I'm not mistaken, which is extra 10 dust from those river tiles, which is actually better than getting Empowerment, even if we include the percentage bonus. So yeah, there is that. So yeah, as I can see, this is a pretty unconventional start, but either way, if none of those unconventional things happen to you, I would easily recommend going for Mill Foundry, into Empowerment, into Cultivation. That's a very stable build and it works well. So there is that. Now, as for what my city does, it's, as you may expect, I'll start with Mill Foundry. Now, I could start with Founders Memorial, but first things first, I actually should probably keep one population of food to grow my population instantly, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And then I'll continue working on Mill Foundry, which is just far more useful than the Founders Memorial, and you do want to get it as quickly as humanly possible. Now, unfortunately, none of my units have any more movement left, so I cannot merge them in a normal way. What I would love to do is to merge my hero with this army, and then use that army to discover what's inside this village, and then assign my hero to this army to also discover what is inside those ruins. Nice and easy way, without having to reassign my hero several times to gain a lot of experience. Right now, however, I just need to save some dust. I'm spending way too much on it on army upkeep, so I need to reassign my hero ASAP, and I'll assign my hero to this army that's about to explore ruins. Why? Just because. Alrighty then, so within 5 turns I need to explore the Aspod ruins illuminated by rays of dust. That's quite far away, it's not undoable, so we will see if we can do it. Also, it looks like it's a neutral territory, but there might be water between me and this area. It might be an island, so there's no telling if I'll be able to actually do this. It's good to think about it though. Anything else I need to do on turn 1? I don't think there is. My dust income is abysmally awful. For the Forgotten, that's never a good place to be. You need to have way more than that. However, well, yeah, unfortunately, until I have my Acropovistics, there ain't much I can do about it. In fact, my dust situation right now is so awful, I'm most likely just going to... no, I need to have Mill Foundry first, no matter what. So I will continue with the Language Square and then into Acropovistics, but I'll need to make some dedication towards that point. Even reassign my hero, even when she's on level 1 most likely. But right now she's locked anyway, so I cannot do this. Also, Draken discarded me because they're Draken. We know that they're a Draken with us at the very least. Also, you might be wondering what this screen is. That's for espionage, but I'll talk about that once we have discovered some of the enemy cities, because espionage is only useful once you have discovered enemy cities. And I don't want to dump too much information on you within the single video. So let's end the turn, let me drink a little. Alright, first task. If you want to read the lore for this faction, feel free to do so by pausing the video and reading every paragraph appropriately. Just please display faster, dear game, I don't have that much time for this. And there we go, by pausing the video you should have been able to read all of this. So first objective, pacify the citizens of Mazville village in a Ravodo region. Alright, that's easy enough. Now the next objective is going to be the one that you are most interested in, because the next objective forces you to fight some neutral army inside some ruins, but in return it actually gives you 2 new units for you to use, which is actually pretty incredible. In the past, it was a random chance of it either being assassins or predators. I'm not sure how it is right now in the release version, it might be always the same thing, I actually don't know that, to be honest, I'm sorry. Release version was just released today, so I don't know those things about release version, but in the past it was either predators or assassins. So there is that. Also, while I remember, it's something I always usually did at the start of a video, and in here I will do the same, and that is to give my settler an Iron Talisman so that he can move a little bit faster. Obviously it's a very important thing to have for your settlers. Do that while remember to do it, because if you forget it's gonna be embarrassing. So there's that done. By the way, plenty of equipment has changed and been balanced properly in this particular patch or expansion. Well, this expansion came together with a patch for people who don't even have the expansion, so saying patch also works. So yeah, a lot of equipment has been changed and rebalanced, but I'll talk about that later when I actually try to equip said equipment. Alright, there's a village nearby that I'll be able to pacify, that's very nice. That's not the village my quest talks about, but whatever. Let's go ahead and see if I can pacify the gladiators. Let's get Language Square! There we go, I have Language Square, it feels good. Let's see what they want, please make it easy. 3 manufacturing units, that's not easy. 15 glass steel is amazing reward though, so I might try to get out of my way to do this. But it's gonna be difficult, and it would put my city at risk, because it would easily allow the gladiators to spawn and start damaging my convoys, maybe even besiege my city. I cannot allow to do this, so I'll most likely just burn them to the ground once I have an army good enough for this. Alright, normally I would now merge my two armies together, but they are a little bit too far apart for this. So for the time being, I'm just going to put my assassin in a city just to save on the upkeep. Yes, I am aware that I could use him to explore this area, but my dust situation so far is so poor, I desperately need to save dust as much as possible in every instance. So let's do just that, and end the turn again, and I need to drink again. Man, I'm really thirsty. Alright then, before I do that, let's go ahead and talk to another village, see what they want. Please make it easy. Please make it easy, Polly. Alright, that's actually amazing. Again, 50 glass steel. I'm actually really lucky with those. This quest usually auto-completes if you get it this early, because it's very unlikely that AI will actually be in this region. Of course, I may be unlucky. There might be an AI right next to me that is actually in this region right now, and in this instance I would fail this quest, but hopefully I'll win it and gain 15 glass steel for basically doing nothing. That would be amazing. Alright then, let's keep exploring through my region, because I find it rather important. Unfortunately, I see no strategic resources as of yet. Do I have any? No need resources right now, so I don't really know. Probably I'll have none, at least in the first era. So that's a bit of a problem. I'd love to get titanium or glass steel. Alrighty then, let's not allow it to make it a Saturday. Also, in the last turn, I completely forgot to move my population around into industry production, which is actually my bad. But thankfully, I'll still get in mill foundry in a single turn, which is rather important. And good. So let's go ahead and make sure that this is indeed the case. End the turn, get my mill foundry, and also some good progress on the Founders Memorial, which is also actually pretty good on its own right. Extra industry and extra dust at the same time. That's a good deal, if I may say so myself. A couple of heuristics. Of course, I need one more dust, but maybe, hopefully, I'll gain dust from this ruin right here. So let's just see if that is the case. Last full load is great, don't get me wrong, but this one time I was hoping for dust. Oh well, it tells me to go over there. That's a little bit inconvenient, because I was trying to get here. But we'll see. Maybe you will give me some dust, that would be very nice. Please give me some dust. Nothing. Just my luck, I'll have to wait one extra 10 for a couple of heuristics. Oh well, some things are just unavoidable, I guess. Let's change my hero, give her the assignment, and let's have her assigned as a governor. Not yet, she needs to wait a little bit more. She needs to wait an extra 10 before I can assign her as governor. Alright, let's wait one extra 10, no big deal. A couple of heuristics, I have now access to them, which is rather good. Let's move a little bit further, see if I can level up my hero even further by talking to an AI. And I will not make it in a single turn, will I? I actually will, unless something spawns in the way. Which it might, actually. It's 5 turns already in a fast game, so that's possible. Oh no, I will not be able to do this, because in a single turn this will run out. That's a bit annoying. Oh well, I guess I will not gain this relic. At the very least, I'll parley. And I have to, wow, even more glass steel. People really are willing to give me a ton of glass steel. Holy balls. Alright then, well I guess I won't complain. Okay, wait, what? I should be able to assign my hero right now. It is locked for 0 turns? That's something fishy. Don't tell me it's a new release back, that would be a little bit sad. I guess it might. Oh well, no release is ever perfect. If that's the case, that's not a very big deal. Anyway, a couple of heuristics. Let's research that and get it ASAP, because boy do I need those. Let's keep everybody on industry for now. Although, no, I don't need everybody on this industry. I can get a couple of heuristics pretty quickly regardless. So, yeah, let's do just that. Keep one person on industry so I can get them in 2 turns, and that should be just good enough. So, let's do that. And as for the research, I don't have to queue anything because it means nothing. But just so that I remember about it, let's make sure that I have both cultivation and empowerment inside. I might even go for empowerment before cultivation, even though that would delay cultivation for a very significant period of time, more than I'm usually comfortable with. But my static was so poor dust-wise, I might do it. I'm not convinced just yet if that's the proper thing to do. I'll think about it before I record the next part of the series. Speaking of which, this video, oh yeah, I know, I failed. This video has been long enough by now, so I'll say my goodbyes to you. Hi there, Galadrius. Ladies and gentlemen, it was PANCZASU, also known as the mighty Mega Spammer. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you online.